Hello, hello to everybody here. It's Teresa Sanderson. Excited to be with you again today for another episode of Igniting Impact, Influence, and Income. We have an awesome guest with us today. Her name is Dr. Nanette Nuessle. And Nan, I'm super excited to welcome you to the interview, and thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you, Teresa.
You are most welcome. You are most welcome. And for those of you who don't know Dr. Nan yet, just know that she and I share some common ground in the healthcare arena. She is a seasoned pediatric hospitalist physician. She's been working in that area for a long time. And I know that she has a business called Down Burnout that is all about helping healthcare providers back away from burnout and move into a better space for themselves mentally and emotionally, and I'm sure physically. That all kind of comes together as the same unit. So again, Dr. Nan, thank you for joining me and being our guest today. Thank
you, Teresa. It's a pleasure to be here.
Love it. So, tell us a little bit, Dr. Nan, about your background. Usually, for my audience, I like to help them get to know the person that I'm chatting with. And so share with us a little bit about, your history, how you got started in medicine, the kind of work you've been doing, and maybe even ultimately what led you to Beat Down Burnout.
Oh, sure. I started out as both a pediatrician and a medical geneticist at a large clinic in central Illinois, and worked my way up from being, the new doc who's on the bottom rung of the ladder in the department to chairing the department, both there and at one of the two nearby hospitals.
Wow.
And I loved that work. But what I saw there was that physicians weren't all being treated equally. For one thing, the Department of Pediatrics was the only department expected to stay open 7 days a week and many of our national holidays. We worked over 100 hours a week, every week. And the male physicians received a head of household bonus for which the women weren't eligible, even if the IRS considered us head of our household.
Oh, my goodness.
That bonus could be equal to a year's salary.
Wow.
Yeah, it was significant.
Wow.
And we couldn't get that. And I fought against that. And as I started fighting against that, I realized that certain physicians were expected to take call on all of the Christian religious holidays because they weren't Christian, and they weren't asked if this was okay. They were just expected to do it.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Physicians were being treated differently based on gender, race, religion, or simply because they looked and spoke differently than the people around them.
Wow.
And I left there and became a traveling or locum physician with the same issues everywhere I went.
Wow.
When I came across bank, I was actually being bullied where I was. And I found, someone introduced me to this concept of bank. And when I implemented it in my unit, we were able to disempower, or I was able to disempower the unit bully in 3 days.
Oh, wow. Incredible.
It completely changed the culture of our unit. And then I expanded it out to other units in the hospital. I know that bullying is a huge driver of burnout. I also know, you understand completely.
Yep.
I also know that a lot of that bullying can be managed with effective communication. Bank teaches communication and relationships and how to connect. And if you can truly make that connection with the people around you, it levels the playing field despite what your title might be or what initials come after your name. It levels that playing field so that you're communicating heart to heart.
I love that. And it's interesting. You mentioned the bank methodology, codebreaker technologies, so not only do we share a mutual background in healthcare, we also now share a mutual connection through codebreaker technologies and the bank methodology. And so it sounds like you have had some real life experience with using that in very appropriate situations. And so I just love that. So was it this unique experience, this experience that you found with one bully that got you started with bank and got you wanting to learn more about it and become even a certified coach and trainer?
Yes and no. It wasn't a unique one-time experience for me to be bullied or for me to be the witness of bullying.
Yep.
It is unfortunately common throughout healthcare. But bank was the one solution I found. And it's incredibly implementable. I mean, the idea that you can get somebody's bank code and know how to speak to them in 90 seconds or less, and that you can then take that out and roll that out to all of your staff members, all of your colleagues, and understand them better, they don't have to change. But if you change how you're speaking to them, everything changes.
Exactly. And it's kind of like, my husband is fond of saying things like, there are some things that you see that you just can't unsee. But I think bank is like that, in that it's something that you learn, and once you know it, you can't not know it, and you can't not use it. It's such a powerful tool. And so, we're both in healthcare. We're both embrace Codebreaker technologies, bank methodology. We also both work with, healthcare work environments per se. My specific focus is nurses and the Nurses Feed Their Young movement, helping transform nursing culture. But I know that, but it sounds sadly the same for physicians.
It
you
is.
know what I mean? And it's just terrible that those of us who go into helping professions, in healthcare, ultimately end up experiencing some of the, the least compassionate, the least empathetic work environments that, you just could never imagine. As a new nurse, I could never imagine what I was stepping into.
Agree with you. Because one of the things that comes up for me is bank enough to really help this situation? I was hired to go open a new hospitalist program earlier this year at another hospital. And when I got there, the CEO of the hospital, whom I'd worked with before at another hospital, we had a relationship. So he was able to open up to me more than any other CEO would on the first day. He called me in and said, these are some of the hurdles that you're going to face in opening this new program for us. And one name kept coming up as a hurdle. And it was another physician there. We'll just call him JP. They'd been trying to get JP to run a monthly meeting between his department and the pediatrics department. And he wouldn't do it. They'd been trying for 2 years and he just wouldn't do it. And from the conversation I was having with the CEO, they would pull JP into a meeting and they would talk to him about the system and the structure of this meeting that they wanted him to, this monthly meeting they wanted him to run, and how it was his responsibility and how it would reduce risk management. And from talking bank, that's very, very blueprint. It's the language we see a lot of people in the C-suite speaking. That's not JP's code. JP's code leads with this. He's interested in action, taking action, things that are exciting, things that will hold and keep his attention. And he also wants flexibility. So anything that happened to recur every month was inflexible to him. And he came to me one morning and asked me if the nurses had informed me about a situation with baby X. I said, no, they haven't talked to me at all yet. He said, well, I told the night nurse, and the night nurse was supposed to tell the day nurse, and the day nurse was supposed to tell you. It's like that old game telephone or telegram. Rumors. And I pointed that out to him, and this is exactly why administration wanted to have him running this monthly meeting, was so that our two departments could discuss problems like this before they arose. Administration had failed to speak to him in his language. In one conversation with him that morning, in less than 10 minutes, I got him to agree to have the meeting, because I turned it around and I spoke to him in action. I talked about how, it'd be really fun if we could have a meeting like this and have it away from the hospital. Maybe have it somewhere where there's pizza and beer. Maybe do this, that, or the other. And he agreed to the meeting right there on the spot. So you can see there's a negative story of administration not speaking his code. There's a positive learning from this story of when you do speak someone's code, you connect and you get things done.
Exactly. Exactly. And, for decades in healthcare, we have done what I call warm body hiring. There's a lot of that in nursing, and it's unfortunate. And I'm not saying that to say that nurses are not valuable. Nurses are extremely valuable, as are our physicians. However, we have assumed that any nurse can do any and every job. And it truly, we will be disciplined to death until we fit that round peg in the square hole, right? Or the nurse ultimately says, forget it, it's not for me, because it's not the right role. Lori Beth Jones wrote the book Jesus CEO years ago, and she said, there are no wrong musical notes. There are only right notes in the wrong places.
Mm-hmm.
And I see so much of that in healthcare. I see so much of that. And I hear it in your story of saying, here we had the perfect guy to do this, but we talked to him all wrong. There was nothing in it for him.
Right. And I've gone into other places and I've done what we call a blueprint analysis, where we get the code of everybody in the unit or department we're working with.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that someone's code is so drastically different from everyone else's that they're struggling in that position.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so knowing their code, let me see if we can't move them to a department that's going to vibrate more at her same energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. So, as we're talking with this, I'm realizing, Nan, that there may be people listening in who do not know yet what the bank methodology is all about, what the bank personality assessment is like. So would you just, in your own words, give us a quick definition of that? Yeah.
Bank is a personality methodology based on the 4 personality types as popularized by Hippocrates 2,500 years ago. And it's an acronym that stands for Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge. And I'm going to put these in that order: Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge. And all 4 of these personalities is based on 12 values. Each one has their own 12 primary values. And you can find out someone's code in 90 seconds or less by either having them go to a URL with these tiles or handing them these cards. They look at the values and they put them in the order that fits their personality. For example, mine is this. Everybody has all 4 personality types. Mm-hmm. And when you know which ones to speak to and which ones to de-emphasize, it completely changes communication and connection.
I love that. I love that. Such a simple way to explain it. I really appreciate that. And, for me, I think, bank has made a difference in a lot of ways. And I think that's what we find, is that once you get started with it, there are, all of these side effects, as we would call them in healthcare, right? And so, side effects for me are that, I am a blueprint personality in the first position. My husband is a knowledge. And while those are complementary in a lot of ways, he's also knowledge action. Okay. So the action in him tends to pull him away from certain things, and, rules don't apply and all that kind of thing. So what I love that bank has done for our personal relationship is truly help me understand things that used to irritate me and maybe anger me. Now I recognize it's just personality. It's not personal.
It's not
doesn't
personal.
mean he doesn't love me. He's not trying to irritate me. He's just doing life as himself. And when I can embrace that, things become much lighter between us. Our relationship is better. We've grown closer. He knows what I need as a high blueprint personality. And, we can love each other better, right? It's just interesting how that happens. Absolutely. What have you noticed as far as some of the side effects of bank in your life?
I integrate better with the nursing staff. I am able to see their needs and see how I need to leave them. For example, I was working in a small hospital where I do a lot of my work in the labor and delivery unit. We had a baby born who is a bit premature, was having some breathing problems, but not bad enough to be on a ventilator, but was certainly more sick than what we could keep at our 25 hospital.
Yeah.
And I was working with 2 young nurses, both in their 20s. And one of those was the charge nurse. And she pulled me aside and she said, this is going to be Lori's first time to do a transport like this. I mean, I'm like, she's never transported anyone before. No. She's never transported a baby. This told me that not only did I need to manage the infant, get the baby stable, get the baby prepped for the transport, but I needed to make sure this nurse had a good experience with it. So that if we needed to do it again the next day or the next week, she would feel confident about it.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's all in how you communicate. Because in the past, I've been written up for during a similar situation, stabilization and transport. I was too short with the staff. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't use inappropriate words. I just didn't connect with them. And that disconnect can affect patient care.
You know, I love the authenticity and vulnerability that you share that with. So thank you. But I have to say, I'm not dissimilar to that. And I recently shared, I was being interviewed somewhere else, but while I have always been driven to be a good communicator, I failed a lot in interpersonal communications. And I share that because now I recognize more than ever the value of relationships and the value of each person, not only as a person, but as, you know, just another human being, you know, a fellow journeyer on this planet and in this life, and the validity and value of their feelings, you know, and how I come across. And so I think Bank has helped me incredibly to value all of the personality types. I have a great appreciation for people who are strong action personality types and the nurturers and the knowledge, you know, because wouldn't that be like the ultimate team if you have all represented? And that's really what we should strive for, is to use the gifts and talents that each of us has for the greater good. And I think for me, that's one of the biggest truths that I've gained from Bank, is that we can do that.
Yes, we can. And we do have all 4 personality types represented within the hospital.
Exactly.
We need to get them speaking to one another in a way that honors each person.
I love that. I love that. And that's where it's at. You know, that's where life-giving culture can begin. For decades, I've said we all work far too long in our jobs, right? And in our career roles. We spend far too many hours at work not to enjoy it.
Right.
Right?
Nobody should dread
going.
Nobody should dread going to work. Nobody should have anxiety, headaches, sleeplessness.
But it's happening. Now more than ever, it's happening. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is a wonderful conversation. And I want to ask you, Dr. Nan, you know, what advice would you give to any healthcare provider who's struggling right now with the sense of, you know, hey, culture is bad. I dread going to work. I don't know how to manage. Maybe it's, you know, back in the day, we called them the strong personalities, right? I don't know how to manage those strong personalities, difficult patients and families, and communicate with meaning. What advice would you give a healthcare provider facing that?
Reach out to me and connect. You can go to my website, beatdownburnout.com.
Love it.
And download the communication guide as a place to start. And that's a brief 1 or 2 page document that talks about the different personalities in the hospital, where you find them and what their values are, and how communicating them based on your values rather than their values can lead to a lack of safety, a lack of trust, and a lack of respect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love that. And so before we finish up today, Dr. Nan, I would like to give you a little bit more of an opportunity to talk with our audience about, you know, the work that you do with Beat Down Burnout, the types of services and things that you offer. So the floor is yours.
Why, thank you.
Of course.
I offer a wide variety of services because I work both with individual healthcare workers and with organizations. For individual healthcare workers, I've worked with everyone from the housekeeper to the CEO. And I have a class that you can go through that is a 12-week class. And the reason it's 12 weeks is so that what you're learning actually becomes habits for you. It becomes part of your day-to-day life. And we've seen in this course, you learn how to use the Codebreaker Technologies AI to decode emails from your colleagues. You can use it to go to their social media and find out more about what their personality type is. And you can use the cards that I just showed a few minutes ago. In addition to that, this course specifically helps you with emotional and spiritual intelligence, and has been shown to raise your emotional and spiritual intelligence on average up to 30% from what it is from your baseline prior to the course. What we see when this happens is people go back to their job empowered to communicate better for themselves and for their team and for their patients.
Love it.
I have, in addition to this, I have an EQ course that is online, and I have courses specifically for corporate trainings. The corporate training, I generally go in and I do a 2-day training on site at a time that we work with your organization to make sure it's a time that's going to work for the organization and their staff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we follow that with a 90-day accountability program that's online. And for the accountability program, we only meet like 90 minutes once a week for that 90 days. And we see people taking what we've taught them and using it in ways I would not have thought to improve healthcare all around for their patient base.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So it sounds incredible. And I love the work that you're doing and that you're bringing the bank methodology to facilities and physicians and other healthcare providers. So I love what you're doing. And thank you so much for sharing time with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. This has been just a really wonderful experience. And I thank you again for the opportunity to be here.
Oh my gosh, of course. It's my pleasure. So for all of you watching, I want to thank you for joining us today for this interview with Dr. Nan, and I will see you next time on our next episode of Igniting Impact, Influence, and Income. Bye for now.